All right, we are back on the scene here. And this is our freezer paper template that we have made by tracing. And this basically shiny side is going to go against the top of our fabric. So easy way to remember this is that the shiny side of your freezer paper and the shiny side of your fabric are both facing downward. Okay, that's probably the easiest way to remember this. Let it cool for a minute and it will reward you by being easier to cut. And one of the things you'll want is a pair of nice scissors. I'm gonna let that cool for a few minutes while we do the second one here. And when we do the second one, we're gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna just peel that gently up, move it out of the way of the camera here. And so we're gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna put both words down on the same piece of fabric. When you're doing your Fusible, just make sure when you do this, especially with batiks and whatnot, make sure you're not using your selvage on these because the weave is different. And again, for this, just press them down. You don't have to go too long, just enough so they stick, and let them cool. If you pull them off too fast, they're gonna pop on you. So with that, we're going to cut this out, and I have, these are my Karen K. Buckley scissors. I love the little guys, just because they're really pretty foolproof. If you want this to be super straight, you could use a rotary cutter and a straight edge to make sure that you cut this really super straight. If not, you can do it the way I'm doing it here, and just be really careful as you cut along not to cut it too thin, okay? Because we're gonna then stitch this down. And people are gonna go, how are you gonna stitch it? Well, we're gonna show you how we're gonna stitch it next. But there we go. Here is my needle. I even left it a little pointy at the end. Now, to cut this little piece here, that's a really tricky part. And for that, I have a different pair of scissors, which are really small. And I'm just gonna fold this edge over like so. Okay, so for those of you who remember making paper dolls and stuff, we're going to use a similar technique. And we're just going to come in here and go snip right in the center. Maybe it will do it. If not, we'll use the bigger ones and snip in the center. Snipped right in the center. There we go. And now I can use these finer scissors to trim out the inside here. So you're going to trim that inside out. All right, so we've done with that one. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to cut these out, peel them up. And to make it easier on me, I just usually cut these into bigger hunks, as you can see here. Now, for those of you who don't know, watch, the freezer paper just peels right off. So to make this easy for me to do, I cut each letter out separately. And then just be really careful when you do this. I find I cut better with the back side of my scissors. Each of you may have a different way that you cut well. So, you know, this is a practiced skill. I think we practiced a lot of it when we were back in kindergarten and then forgot it. So go back to kindergarten. This is the fun part. And we're going to cut out our letters here. And if they're not super perfect, don't worry. Some of our stitching will cover some of this as we go forward with this. And so we're going to cut this guy out here. Okay. And, you know, you guys probably don't want to watch me cut this whole thing out. So I'm going to kind of fast forward through some of this for you. So I have cut out my S and I have cut out my O here in a way. And to do this, make sure that you fold it kind of the long way to make sure that works easier. And just make a little snip here. Make sure you're on the inside of both ones. All right, we've got a little snip here, and then I can trim to the inside here, just like we would have for our needle. And if you have to go back and straighten this up later, just because the angle your fingers can actually move this at. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to snip all this extra away here so that I have my O in the center. Now, there is an alternate way to do this if you're really not a fan of this. You could trace your background fabric on this and then fuse your background fabric over it. But I do try and keep my depth of fabric or thickness in my fabric's kind of thin. So here we go. So I have my S and my O. I'm going to cut out the rest of this, and when I get these done, we're going to come back to the next video and I will show you how to actually fuse these down.